Hello everyone, welcome to this session of the NPTEL course Appreciating Linguistics or Typological Approach. We are going to start with a new unit or a new set of discussion today. Until now we have had quite a bit of discussion on various branches of linguistic typology, which includes syntactic, semantic, phonological, morphological and lexical typology. And now is the time to talk about pragmatics, which is the functional aspect of language. Primarily, it is not always functional, but generally it is considered as the functional or the language usage related discussion. So, when we are thinking about pragmatics, or before moving to the pragmatic typological approach, which is termed as pragmatic typology in the syllabus if you check it. But before knowing that, we need to find out how to understand pragmatics and what do we understand by pragmatics. Once you understand what pragmatics is, then maybe we should talk about pragmatic typology, because this is a little different. Semantic typology and pragmatic typology would be a bit different from the rest of the typological discussions or the rest of the typological work. Okay. It's more philosophical or more semantic in nature. To begin with, I would like to tell you the modern use of the term pragmatics would be attributable to the philosopher Charles Morris, and his 1938 work is like the foundation of this academic discipline or this study of language phenomena. So, if you talk about Morris 1938, he was primarily concerned with the general shape of a science of science. Science of science. So, science, first science is SCIE and CE, please do not, these are the homophones, so please do not get confused. The other one is related to signs, signifier and signified relation, or the SIGN thing, right. So, considering the discussion, Morris always preferred to use the term semiotics, which means the relevance or the study of science, and a part of semiotics was known as pragmatics, and this pragmatics would be primarily the study that is related to the relation of science to the interpreters. So, there are two things, one is a set of signs, the other one is the interpretations. So, the academic discipline which studies the relation between the sign and the interpreter was known as pragmatics at the very early days of when this discipline emerged. But a lot of things have changed after that. There was something called pure pragmatics, and then we had different other kinds of pragmatics study related to formal and functional aspect of language or aspect of linguistics. The descriptive studies primarily deal with the pragmatics of natural language. A lot of things have changed. So, what I am going to do, instead of focusing more on the historical aspect, I would just give you a brief overview of how the linguists understand pragmatics, what are the standard definitions and which one is considered to be the most effective, how pragmatics is positioned in the domain of linguistics, and what should be the point of departure when we talk about pragmatic typology. I'll just discuss a couple of things that Morris has noted as far as all these phrases. So, come here or good morning, or let us say oh, wow. So, these kind of things. So, when you say come here, it is just not the combination of the two terms come and here, rather this is there is a lot of other pragmatic markers loaded, right. It is a speech act, and why it would be called as what is a speech act, we are going to check it later, but the phrases or the sentences like good morning or hello or come here, or you can say wow, even such a single word like wow, which is actually a full sentence in its own sense. So, these are the sentences which have a lot of pragmatic informations loaded with this, and somebody who is trying to study pragmatics as a linguistic discipline or as a part of linguistics would have to go through the understanding of different kind of rhetorical and poetical devices when you are thinking about the use of the language, because language can be used in multiple ways, and considering there are different ways of usage of language, we have to find out, or we have to identify which use is related to what phenomenon, right. So, that would be a part of the speech act theory, which we would very briefly discuss later. But what Morris has done, he has gone on to expand the scope of pragmatics in accordance with the behavioral theory of semiotics, which does not really consider much of the linguistics component, but rather the psychological component, the sociological phenomena, and language has been considered as a biological, psychological and sociological phenomena, and this has been studied under the domain of functioning of science, the signified relation thing, right. But one thing was very significant about Morris' work is that he introduced the trichotomy. And what is the trichotomy? Syntax, semantics and pragmatics. So, the interface of syntax, semantics and pragmatics is extremely essential for a language researcher to understand the nuances of how natural language works, in the how natural language is used in the discourse. So, if you cannot ignore the role of syntax, semantics and pragmatics together when you are trying to understand the usage of language in the discourse. The discourse could be anything, it could be a written discourse, it could be spoken discourse. Times and again I have been reiterating, my focus is always on the spoken discourse, because I do not really discuss much about the written system of language. So, following Morris, the trichotomy that has been discussed in an extensive manner is the understanding of syntax, semantics and pragmatics. Okay? And as far as pragmatics is concerned, it has moved from non-linguistic aspects to the linguistic aspect of the conversation, right. So, the conversational analysis, or you can say when you talk about the natural language conversation analysis, pragmatics actually it plays a huge role because of its distinct markers. Okay? But if you ask me, there is a term called pure pragmatics, if you study history of pragmatics a bit. So, pure pragmatics would be related to concepts like belief, utterance, intention, right. So, these are the things. Maybe I am going to write it over here. Here is a small box that I am drawing. So, when there is something called pure pragmatics. It might sound a little weird, because this pure impure thing, we do not really talk about it in linguistics. There is nothing called pure language or impure language. So, when it is pure pragmatics, it is going to be generally concerned with belief, then you can have utterance, plus you can have, let us say, intention. Okay? So, these are various things that would come under the umbrella term called pragmatics. And what is it? The logical relation among these things. Okay. So, when you are thinking about pure pragmatics, these are the terms that you need to focus on. However, our focus is going to be the linguistic aspect of pragmatics. We are not really going to talk about the issues, let us say, related to belief, utterance and intention. Rather, we will try to find out how language, or what sort of pragmatic markers, or what sort of pragmatic typology, what kind of cross linguistic pragmatic generalization can be drawn from our understanding of pragmatics as a let us say as a discipline of linguistics. Okay. So, now I would ask you to look at these two pictures. These pictures I have got it from Yule's book. What do you think? What does the first picture say? This is, let us say, 1 and this is 2. So, what do you think? What does the first picture say and what does the second picture say? Do you think just the linguistic inputs are not going to be enough to convey the meaning? If you remember, or maybe I am going to talk about it later probably. There is something called say that much what you must, do not say anything beyond that, and try to convey the maximum information with the minimum number of words that you had used. The minimum number of words does not mean that you will miss out or you would ignore the essential phrases or the essential elements. You cannot do that, right. Considering we have a restriction, like being humans, we should always think about use of the minimum number of words without missing out on any essential phrase, and by the in spite of using the very limited set of words or very limited set of phrases, our speech should be creative enough to incorporate or to convey everything that we wanted to say, right. So that's something creative about human speech. So pragmatics would also say, speak only that much what you must, and always mean more than what you have said, right. So that, what does it mean? Try to use minimum number of linguistic phrases, and using minimum number of linguistic phrases, you should convey the maximum information as much as possible, right. So with this, with this tiny bit of information about pragmatics, let us look at these pictures. Okay. So these are the perfect examples of how the minimum number of words can also create a lot of confusion, especially when you are trying to understand it from the linguistic perspective. Okay. So what does the first picture say? The first picture says heated attendant parking. What do you understand? What is that? This is, I told you, this is from Yule's book. So what do you think it means? So first word is heated, second word is attendant, third word is parking, isn't it? So when you hear or when you see a sentence, or sorry, a sign like this, the very first thing that should come to your mind is that the first thing is that this parking would be done by the attendant of the restaurant or whatever, right. So you do not have to park it, maybe it is a valet parking area, or the valet parking facility is available. So they have the attendants who can park the car for you, so you do not have to worry about it. And then the second thing is that, what is the other interpretation that you get? If you park your car here, the car is going to be heated. That means this area does not have much shadow, so your car might be heated. This is what the signboard wants to convey. This is what people who have written it want you to interpret. But do you think this kind of an interpretation is the only interpretation that comes from here? Do you think? No, there could be the other meaning. Normally or when you look at this, the first thing that catches your attention is heated attendant. Heated attendant means you choose any attendant and you beat him up or you beat her up, and this is where you can park him or her. So that means it is not about car parking, it is basically heated attendant parking. So the attendants are being parked here. Such a weird meaning does it convey. So by looking at the hoarding or looking at the signboard, you do not really like, one possible interpretation could be the attendant who has been beaten up or who has been tortured or heated in that sense, beaten up maybe, or verbally abused or physically abused, whatever, is going to be parked here. So that's, and see what exactly the signboard wants to convey. The signboard wants to convey that it's the heated area. Please do not park your car here on your own. We have our attendants to take care of it. Following, so now you see how the meaning completely changes if you do not have the right kind of pragmatic markers, or just by looking at the linguistic inputs, how it's going to be a weird situation, or how the meanings are going to be completely different. So, pragmatics does have a big role to play, right, and it must, or I must tell you, there is no problem as far as grammar is concerned, because this is a signboard, and then we do not really use the closed class words. Primarily we deal with the open class noun, verb, nouns, verbs, etc. And then just a bit of difference is going to change the meaning from a very positive one to a very negative one. The positive meaning is that you have been warned, you are the car owner, and you have been warned in advance that this is a place may not like to park your car, because this is a heated area. Since this is a heated area, we have our attendants to help you to park your car. But such a wonderful thing that you have people to help you out, and you have been warned not to park your car here because you might get a flat tire at the end of the day. So, all good things, but the way it has been written on the board, that gives a very different opinion, right. Now, let us move to the second picture that we have. What does it say? It says baby and toddler, then there is a third word which is written, is what? Sail, right. So, what does it mean? And there are a couple of babies and toddlers, super cute ones. One is upside down, one is trying to do some squat or whatever, and there are 4 tiny babies and tiny toddlers sitting over here, and it is written sail. So, what is the first impression that you get? That this is a place where people are sailing, let us say people are selling babies and toddlers, which is so inhuman, which is such a gross thing to think about. How can you indulge in a sell, like how can you sell babies and toddlers? But then actually the signboard does not want to say that. Okay. So, the signboard wants to say that you will find out the baby related stuff or the toddlers related stuff, maybe the clothes or whatever, or the toys, that has a sale here. They are not selling anything as far as babies and toddlers are concerned. So, they are not selling them, rather they are selling some stuff, maybe clothes, which can be of use to the babies and toddlers, right. So, assuming things are normal and this store has not gone into the business of selling young children, we assume that it is about the clothes, right. So, though it is not written explicitly that we are selling clothes of babies and toddlers, you can easily understand it, that sale is not for the children, but for the clothes of children. So, that means just linguistic units are not the only deciding factors to convey the meaning. So, just by writing these 3 things, you can the signboard can actually give a lot of other informations. Though they have not exclusively mentioned, you still could understand. That means beyond the linguistic information, there must be something else which helps us to get the meaning out of it. Similar is the case with the first hoarding or the first signboard. Though it is written heated, attendant, parking, we understood that the attendants are not parked here, the attendants are not heated, rather this is a heated place and they have the attendants to take care of your car, do not worry. So, since this is a heated place, we have help, or we have our people who can assist you in parking, or who can help you, or who can keep a check on your vehicle, right. So, this is the world of pragmatics. Interpretation, okay. So, the term here is interpretation. These are the key terms. Then we have signs, okay. So, these are the 2 important components of pragmatics. The signs could be linguistic signs, could be non-linguistic ones also, something like beliefs, utterance and intention, stuff like that, right. So, for our work, we are going to focus on the linguistic signs. So, and the linguistic signs are associated with certain other pragmatic markers, which is why we get a holistic meaning out of limited number of phrases. So, though it is written baby and toddler sale, we clearly understand that the store is not selling young children, rather the store is selling the clothes for the young children, the clothes for the babies and toddlers. Similar is the case, though the hoarding says heated attendant parking, we understood that the attendants are not parked here. Rather, your car can be taken care of by our attendants or by their attendants, because this area might be heated, right. So, what do we understand, or what is the need of bringing in examples like that? So, bringing in these examples, we emphasized the influence of context. Okay. So, this is what you need to remember, or you need to understand, that influence of context is very important in pragmatics. Okay. Nobody actually told you that the sale is for clothes. Nobody told you the parking is for cars and it is attendant it is the help of an attendant, but you got it, you understood that this could have been the possible meaning, and these are the different kinds of context. So, what are the different kinds of context here? One is the linguistic context. And what is linguistic context? What is written, the linguistic phrases which have been used, the letters, the words which have been used, that is the linguistic context. Besides the linguistic context, you have also a co-text, linguistic context plus the co-text. Okay. So, these things together is giving us a meaning, right. So, what is a co-text? Co-text could be a new word for you. Just to explain this to you, the co-text of a word is the set of other words used in the same phrase or sentence. So, that means the combination of many words together gives you a different interpretation. Independently, that would give a different interpretation, but when many words are combined together in the in a co-text form, then the meaning, it has a strong effect and the meaning comes out clearly. So, the combination of the linguistic context and the co-text, which are mainly the pragmatic informations associated with it, it helps us to get the right meaning of this context, right. So, we will talk about it in more detail in a while, but let us look at how linguistics literature has understood pragmatics. What is the definition of it? As I just mentioned a while ago, to begin with, pragmatics started with the relation between the sign and then the interpretation, right. So, which sign has been interpreted as how? So, that is the most rudimentary thing to understand pragmatics, but this sign SIGN, this may or may not be linguistic sign, it could be some other psychological, behavioral or other stuff, right. So, it is much later we became more focused about linguistic science. So, pure pragmatics, which I was talking about, it might be beliefs, it might be situations, it might be utterance, it might be anything else. So, these are the behavioral things or the psychological things. Nowhere would you see that these are the linguistic signs, it could be any other kind of sign and their interpretation. But if you narrow it down in the purview of linguistics as an academic discipline, it is going to be related to only linguistics, otherwise it could be anything else. So, if we focus on the phrase or the term called linguistic sign, so the broadest possible definition of pragmatics would be, it is the study of language use, not the form, not the structure, right. So, this is the most surface level definition I can tell you, but pragmatics and grammar also has a long connection, or it has a very intricate connection, a strong connection. We should also take care of it, but when we say study of language usage, very likely we are going to ignore, which is actually not the case. We definitely take care of the form or the structure part of it, but primarily the focus is like the shortest possible definition of pragmatics would be the study of language usage, right. So, if you are using it properly or the way you use it, if you are trying to study that, then it will be considered as pragmatics. But you know what, that was not sufficient as I just mentioned. So, this kind of a definition has more flaws than the strengths, right. So, you cannot simply use a blanket term like language usage. Language usage could be anything, right. So, what is so special or what is so specific about pragmatics as far as this definition is concerned? So, there is a lot of flanks associated with this, and we will try to or we will move to the next definition in that sense. Okay. So, what do we have? We have, considering we have the definitional problems, our discipline should cover both context dependent aspect of language structure and principle of language usage. So, two things. So, what is the problem if we restrict ourselves with usage? So, pragmatics, I am going to, it is not here in the slide, but just remember pragmatics should have two different domains of it or two different aspects of it. It must take care of the context dependent aspect of language structure and it should also take care of the usage or the function, right. So, you cannot ignore either of these, right. So, not only the structure, but also it should take care of principles of language usage, right. So, both the things should go hand in hand, then only pragmatics can come up with a holistic definition. Otherwise, if you only focus on usage, that means you are ignoring a very important aspect of language, and pragmatics would be a crippled discipline if we do not consider that. So, context dependent aspect of language structure has to be given equal importance as the amount of importance has been given to the principles of language usage, right. So, that is the first thing. Then moving on to the next set of the next definition, which is more fine tuned, which is more solid in that sense, which has gone beyond the superficial language usage kind of thing. So, the other one is a little more rigid, the other one is a little more streamlined, maybe streamlined is the right word I should use. What is it? Pragmatics is the study of those principles that will account for why a certain set of sentences are anomalous or not possible utterances. So, what does it talk about? It talks about possibility or impossibility or accepted, non-accepted form of language or form of a construction. So, see, this is this kind of a definition. When you say it should give us an account, it should give us a reason why a certain set of sentences are anomalous. So, anomalous is basically they are not possible. We are not, it is not possible for the utterance of certain constructions. So, pragmatics should be the study of that. Pragmatics should be the study of those reasons. So, somebody who studies pragmatics should be able to understand the reasons of why a certain set of sentences are not considered to be the possible utterances. If you are able to get that, then you are okay. So, pragmatics is going to be a study of such things. So, this is a more narrowed down definition of pragmatics. Okay. So, this might have a couple of other, let's say, issues or the problems, but one thing that you need to remember is that when you move from this definition, will have a more linguistically structural understanding. So, we will go back to it in a while.